All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tracing the chilling, minute by minute events of March 12th, 1997. We're looking at a deeply unsettling case where a man's haunted past literally swallowed him whole. Seriously, this story completely defies logic, it defies physics, and as you'll see, it even breaks the linear flow of time. It's all about a fence inspector, we'll just call him Jack, and how a completely routine, mundane drive turned into an absolute, inescapable nightmare. But, okay, to really understand how this happened, we first have to talk about the setting. Have you ever experienced the unforgiving, blistering heat of the Australian outback? The Oodnadatta Track is just endless red dirt, spinifex grass, and these old telegraph poles that lean over like tired men. Out there, you can drive for hours and literally nothing changes. It's like you're on a treadmill. The horizon stays exactly the same distance away. The sun stays pinned in the exact same spot in the sky. It's an environment where time just kind of stops. And that level of profound isolation, well, it can easily play tricks on your mind. Or in Jack's case, completely isolate you from reality itself. So let's break down the timeline. March 12th started out totally normal for Jack. He's a seasoned fence inspector, right? Checking boundaries 100 kilometers south of Oodnadatta. At 6 a.m., he heads out. Full tank of diesel, 20 liters of water. He'd driven this exact track a couple hundred times before. But then, 1 p.m. hits, and everything changes. He spots a well. Now, what's crazy here is that Jack knew this route like the back of his hand. He swore up and down that this ancient, hand-stacked stone well was simply never there before. But there it was. He stops his ute, the engine's ticking, the flies are buzzing. Looking back, he really should have just kept driving. Imagine stepping out of your air-conditioned car into crushing 42-degree heat. You know, the kind of heat that dries your eyes while they're still open. Jack walks up to the structure, points his little LED torch down into the darkness, and finds, well, a bottomless trap. The details are just incredibly unsettling. The stones are stained dark, like they haven't touched water in centuries. There's this rusty mesh covering the top, but it's strangely smooth, almost like it's been rubbed by hundreds of hands. And the smell coming up, it isn't water, it isn't rot. It smells like gray dust, ash, and bone. And then the absolute kicker. Resting on a little ledge about 10 meters down is a single, faded white woman's shoe. Now, this is where things go from weird to absolutely terrifying. The whole situation escalates fast. While he's looking down, Jack hears 3 distinct physical knocks coming from inside the well. Tap, tap, tap. Then 3 more. It's a deliberate pattern. He freaks out, understandably, and backs away toward his ute. The knocking stops, but then it's replaced by this eerie humming. It sounds like an old 1800s convict tune. And then, impossibly, a clear voice echoes up out of the dark. And it greets him by a name he hasn't told a single soul out there. It just says, "You're late, Jack." Let's focus on what that voice was humming for a second. Jack hears this specific lyric drifting up from the darkness. "Oh, Sarah, she went to the well one day." It's a crucial breadcrumb, guys. This links whatever paranormal thing is happening to a very real, very buried secret. The tune itself is archaic, like something an old shepherd would whistle, sung in an outdated English. But that specific lyric isn't just a creepy song. It's a targeted, incredibly deliberate accusation aimed straight at Jack. So Jack gets back to his oot, his fingers are shaking, and he radios the SES, the State Emergency Service. He's panicking, reporting the shoo, the knocks, the humming. The dispatcher on the other end, though, chillingly calm. He literally asks Jack if he's been drinking or taking medication. But then the dispatcher gives him this really cryptic warning. He tells Jack to step away from the edge, mentioning that there are all these old 1800s convict stories about wells out on the track. Wells that were used for, well, things other than water. But Jack doesn't even get the chance to step away. While he's on the radio, the nightmare completely shifts gears. The entity traps Jack inside his own vehicle. Those 3 knocks he heard in the well, they suddenly transfer to the metal roof right above his head. He looks up and watches 3 physical dents slowly press down from the outside. Then the heavy breathing starts, followed by a loud, intense whistling of that exact same convict tune. It vibrates so hard the sound literally travels right through his skull. And then the voice comes back, grinding like stones through the dented metal roof. It hits Jack with this horrifying accusation. It says, "I have something of yours. You have 1998. You have Sarah. You forgot her." It violently rips open this incredibly dark chapter from Jack's past. In that one terrifying instant, the trap snaps shut. It's zeroed in on his deepest, most heavily guarded secret. Now, you're probably wondering, who is Sarah? Well, official records show that Jack actually did know a Sarah. She was a backpacker who mysteriously disappeared near this exact same track back in 1998. And get this, Jack was the very last person to see her alive. The police questioned him, he gave a statement, and ultimately, he was officially cleared. But wait, did you catch the time slip there? The entity is speaking to Jack in March of 1997, right? But it's referring to the events of 1998 as if they are a past he's trying to run from. It's completely mind-bending. The Outback clearly never forgot his guilt, and it's literally bending time itself to force a confrontation. Completely driven by terror and obviously guilt, Jack gets out of the ute again. But the world has changed. That blinding Outback sun, gone. The sky has turned this dead ash gray color. He walks back to the edge, and the rusty mesh over the well has simply vanished. He points his torch down, and staring back up at him is this corrupted, absolute nightmare version of Sarah. She's incredibly pale, dressed in white, and her eyes are completely black. No whites, no color at all. She looks up, smiles at him, and says, "You left me here. 1998. I called your name. You drove away." This is the point of no return. Reality just breaks. As the entity commands Jack to come down, the solid red dirt beneath his boots suddenly turns soft, like quicksand. He starts sinking. He's screaming into his handheld radio, begging the dispatcher to send help right away. But the dispatcher's voice crackles back, still totally calm, and delivers this absolutely devastating blow. He says the SES patrol already arrived at Jack's coordinates 3 hours ago. They found the running ute, they found the well, but Jack was already gone. Let's jump over to the SES Patrol's reality for a second. When they actually arrive at 6 p.m., they walk into a crime scene that defies gravity. Jack's ute is sitting there, engine running, doors flung open, the radio just static. They find his footprints in the dirt, tracking straight from the driver's side over to the edge of the well. But here's the thing. They don't stop at the edge. The footprints literally continue vertically, straight down the inside stone wall of the well, walking directly into the pitch black. So obviously they have to investigate. A brave rescuer hooks up to a rope and rappels down into what seriously looked like a bottomless void. And what he finds down there in the absolute dark makes zero logical sense. Think about it. This is a well that hasn't held a single drop of water in centuries, right out in the middle of a parched desert. But when the rescuer touches down, the dirt at the bottom was wet. And digging into that wet mud, the rescuer unearths something impossible. He pulls up Jack's size 10 work boot, and buried right underneath that boot, an old, faded photograph of a blonde, smiling woman. The date printed on the photo is 1998, but flipped over, written on the back in completely fresh ink, are the words, "Sarah, 1998, please find me." It's like the past, present, and future all violently collided at the bottom of that well just to claim Jack. So, how do you even write a police report on something like this? The SES officer who climbed out of that well literally sat in his patrol car in dead silence for 20 minutes before typing up his report. He just wrote, "Missing person, circumstances unknown. Well appears to have no bottom. Recommend permanent closure." It's this incredibly sterile, bureaucratic attempt to put a lid on an event that fundamentally broke the laws of nature. Oh, and by the way, despite his strong recommendation, the well was never permanently closed. So, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for us? I think it shows that isolation doesn't actually protect you from the terrible things you've done. It just traps you in a room with them. The well wasn't just a hole in the ground made of stones and rusty mesh. It was a literal manifestation of consequence. Jack thought he could just drive away from his guilt, hiding behind the sheer endless emptiness of the Oodnadatta Track. But the track itself became the trap that forced him to finally answer for it. I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on next time you find yourself alone on a long-forgotten stretch of road. The sources say that if you drive the Oodnadatta Track today, you can still find it. You'll see the old dark stones, you'll see the rusty mesh, and the warning is crystal clear. Do not stop your car. Do not look inside, and if you hear knocking, absolutely do not answer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes on the road, and I'll catch you next time.